Welcome into episode 524 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. The Boston Bruins have won 5 games in a row and 7 of 8 with their most recent 4-2 win over the Seattle Kraken. Bridget and Scott, I have half a mind to ask how the two of you were doing, but I know that Bridget is happy as a pig in shit because Harry Styles has released the announcement of a new album. Now, I know that tickles your fancy, Scott, but how are you doing, Scott? And how Bridget's doing?
I'm great. Bridget, what was Harry Styles' last album? Was that Harry's House, or was there one? Hasn't been one since then?
That was Harry's House.
So I actually like that album. So I'm not.
It's been a long time since he had an album.
I'm not gonna hate on a new Harry Styles album.
No,
that was a good album.
So,
right, so you're doing good too.
I can't wait to drop so much money on the next tour. It's gonna be great.
That I'm not gonna do. So you're on your own for that one.
I went to New York City to watch him when he was doing his residency there. It was a lot of fun, but it was very expensive. But anyway, yeah, that was the good news. Like started. I needed it. I was exhausted. I'm feeling like mid-season burnout currently from all my jobs that I work 4 hockey jobs during this time of year. So I've been like really tired. And then that came out. I was like, yes, it gives me life. And then the Chara celebration reminded me that this, working in hockey, even though there's some burnout, it's not all that bad, and that it's really actually a cool job, and I'm grateful that I get to do it. So was a nice and necessary reminder for me that this is a cool thing that we get to do. And also reminded me that it had like a weird, not to get sappy, but I'm going to, when it was 2011, which I know, Scott, you were covering the team in 2011, but I was in high school. And I remember I watched all those games.
Sick brag, bro.
I bragged for you. I was in high school. I was doing my history homework while I was watching the Bruins playoff run. I used to watch it with my dad, and we had this big TV in the basement, and we'd go down there and watch it and eat peanuts, and like we had a whole routine. And I would be like hard at work on my AP history homework, hating life because it was the worst. Like it was just so hard. It was just a lot of work, and I'd be head in my book. And then I'd pop it up when something was happening. And I remember my dad and I having a conversation trying to figure out what I wanted to do for work, what I want to go to college for. And I said, I think I want to go cover the Bruins. I think that would be fun, because he said, don't pick a job that feels like work. Pick something that feels like you can do it over and over again, and you never get tired of it. So I said, I talk about this team constantly. I think I want to go to school to do that. And I did. And then it was like a weird moment, like a thought in my head last night, like, oh my God, wait a minute. I remember 2011 watching Chara lift the Stanley Cup and thinking that's what I want to do. And I've been doing it now for 5 years, which is just kind of crazy. Like I actually did what I said I was going to do. So it was a nice moment for me. Sorry to like hijack with this story, but that's great. What happened. That's how I ended up in this in the first place. So to then get to see his number go up in the rafters, and we had a great vantage point from where we were, and to be part of it, and I got stuck with Andrew Ference and Adam McQuaid for 20 minutes trying to find where we were supposed to go. So we just looped TD Garden together for a while. It was, they're telling stories and they're being funny, and obviously Ference did the speech, and I thought he did a great job. I was also in the elevator with Willie O'Ree, Johnny Busick, Rick Middleton, and Terry O'Reilly. Was actually how I got lost in the first place, because I took the elevator to the wrong floor with them.
Yeah, but Bridget actually accidentally walked out on the ice and tried to sit down at center ice for the ceremony with them.
No, I ended up at the party, though. I did end up at the party. They had a pregame party after they were all done with media availability. They went to this party in like the Parquet Club, which is like the Celtics. And I'm trying to help Ference and McQuaid get to where they need to go, and I thought that our stuff was right next to it, but it wasn't. And I'm just like in the party for a second. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not supposed to be here. And then I was like, I gotta go find my people. And then
well, while I'm here, I might as well do a couple shots.
Like two was like drinking a martini. I was like, I want one of those. But yeah, no, it it was just a weird day because I didn't even know that was what was going to happen to me that day. And I had a good time, even though I was lost and never got to the press conferences that I needed to go to.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So while Bridget was lost, and we knew it was gonna be a tight call for Bridget to get to like the gold card because he had some other stuff related to covering college hockey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was on right outside, right at the top of the gold carpet entrance, and we got to talk to Patrice Bergeron, Tim Thomas, Andrew Ference, Ray Bourque, Dennis Seidenberg, like all stop by and talk to media. So that was cool. Obviously, you get kind of the start of some of the stories about Chara and some insight into kind of what makes him tick and what it was like being his teammate. Or in the case of Ray Bourque, like the perspective of obviously another legend who's had his number retired. And I thought Bourque had a great quote that like really summed it up, I think, for a lot of fans, what Chara's arrival in Boston meant. And Ray Bourque said, I think they became the Bruins again. I think we could be proud of that group and how they played. And went on to talk about like them playing hard, and just being tough to play against, and then winning, of course, because in the mid 2000s, especially that really tumultuous 05-06 season out of the lockout, like that wasn't happening. That was a mess, and obviously the team trades away Joe Thornton, trades away Sergei Samsonov, fires Mike O'Connell. Like there's just all this turnover. And signing Chara was really like the first step to kind of steadying the ship and getting things back on track. And like it didn't result in a lot more wins right away. That 06-07 season was also not very good. And they end up firing Dave Lewis at the end of it, towards the end of it. So, but then they were clearly like on the right track. And that all starts with Chara. And it starts with him coming in as captain and setting that culture that, people have probably heard tons about. So like we don't need to do a half hour on it. But, Bergeron said like he knew right away that Chara was the right guy to lead the team. He said that the first time he met him was in the gym over the summer, like Chara came to Boston after signing and Bergeron ran into him in the gym and like they just started talking and hit it off. And Chara wanted to know all about all the players on the team. And, Bergeron's still only 21 at the time. And he's like, it's like, it seemed crazy to me that like Chara's picking my brain about all this stuff. And, but it just kind of spoke to Chara wanting to just dive right in. And like, there was no time to waste. It was, it was all in right from the start. So, and obviously that ends up building to that 2011 Cup, which, obviously it's, sentimental for all of us. Like everyone listening probably has their own story about what that team and that run meant to them. For me, it was my first year covering the team. I was an intern at WEI as a senior at BU, and had, started my internship in January of that season. And then, after a little bit, they put me on a couple Bruins games working with DJ Bean. And then I just started going to every home game and they just kept sending me. So I guess I must have done at least okay work. And then, the school year ends and the Bruins are in the middle of a playoff run. And I just remember asking Rob Bradford and Jerry Spar. Jerry Spar was editor for WEI.com at the time. I was like, can I just like stick around and cover the rest of this run? And they were like, yeah, sure. Like, you don't want to like go celebrate graduation and stuff. And I was like, nope, I want to keep going to Bruins games. So they were nice enough to keep me around to the end. And it was such a great team to cover as your first team, because obviously Char's the captain and like talking to him was crazy at the time. It was one of those, like, I can't believe I'm like actually in the room talking to Zdeno Chara and Bergeron and like David Krejci, all these guys that just a couple years earlier, I'm like a diehard fan rooting for. And like, so it was like, you remember the guys who would answer your questions like in depth when, I like barely know what I'm doing. But like Andrew Ferentz was one of those guys where it was like he would always give you such thoughtful answers. Even me as like someone he didn't know who hadn't been around and was just kind of starting up, this little kid who's in college, and yet he would still treat you like this was like the most important interview, and he's never changed. Like clearly you get that from watching him MC that ceremony last night. Like, he's always been awesome. He's always been awesome on a microphone. So I knew he was going to be great, and obviously he was, and it was just a great ceremony. It was a great night. Like Bridget said, it's one that reminds you like how special this can be. And I know like that's a night that I'll certainly never forget.
Yeah, those guys in particular are my childhood. Like junior high, 06, 07 is when they got Chara. So right through high school for me is when they ended up winning the cup. So I've always thought highly of them, even though he almost hit me with his bike back in 2016. A little known story. He almost killed me. Fucking guy almost killed me in the north end. I mean, it's unbelievable. But yeah, it's I was going on from a side street on the Hanover, blind corner building, and you know what I mean. And I just
looking to get some good Italian food, and you almost
yeah. Well, it's funny because they're all talking about how he rode his bike around the north end. I'm like, yeah, I know that all too well, right? not to quote T Swift, but yeah, like just like as close as a shave right by me. I just look, I just see this absolute monster on a bike. I'm like, these sidewalks are too small for you, Z. But yeah, obviously he's an all-time player for the franchise, for the league, and the game of hockey. So an awesome ceremony. Hope everybody enjoyed that watching at home or in the arena. And Scott, I think that's pretty much your opening shift, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't even know if we really need to go into my opening shift. I feel like I already covered it. Like it was just gonna be about how special that night was.
I got one more question for the two of you before we go to Bridget's. And so what were your fits? I hear gold carpet. Did you guys put on a certain fit? Were you rocking Gucci, Scott? Like, what was your fit tonight or last night?
You know what? It was actually nothing fancy. Because I thought about it. I thought about making it a suit night. Maybe could have done that, but no, it was just chinos and a sweater, just pretty basic. I did not go all out. We in the media, we're not really walking the gold carpet, so I didn't have to be super fancy.
Speak for yourself. When you get lost, you might end up.
I was gonna say, yeah, Bridget walked the gold carpet, the red carpet, the blue carpet.
So the reason why I ended up at the after party, I think everybody, or not the pre-party, is that I think they thought I was supposed to be there because I was dressed pretty fancy and I was in like a nice black dress, my high heels, makeup, hair, whatever. And then I was in the room and everybody just thought, oh, she looks like she's supposed to be here. So, and then I found my way where I needed to go.
It is a good life lesson. Like you can open a lot of doors if you just act like you're supposed to be there.
Which I have, and I did yesterday, accidentally. But yeah, Brian, my opening shift's also related, so we're not going off the Chara topic just yet. I wanted to tell one story that he said, and then I'll get into my opening shift, because I just think this is what Bruins fans, if they haven't heard before, would kind of like to hear something that Chara said. He talked about his decision to become a Bruin in the first place in free agency and the reasons why he wanted to come here. And he said, first of all, that he had to make that decision in like 60 seconds because there were other offers. And when you're in free agency, if you don't decide to go with a team, they're going to call another guy right after and they're going to sign them because it's kind of a frantic thing in free agency, which I think people forget. And I remember kind of realizing this when the whole Bertuzzi free agency happened. It was like, I feel like he got a lot of offers and then maybe like split second made a decision that wasn't the perfect decision for him. But so Chara said he had already done his homework and he had like this checklist that Boston checked off a lot of the stuff that he wanted. And he said he knew that there was an opportunity there to have that leadership role. He said, I wanted to go to a team that was desperate to win because he picked Boston when they were not doing well. So he said he wanted to go to a team where they were really like hungry to get back in the right direction. And then obviously the living situation, he said he liked here, and he said, yeah, obviously is the best decision he ever made. So it was just kind of interesting to hear his account of like having to make this really life altering choice in like 60 seconds. And it changed the course of Boston sports too. It wasn't just his own life. Like it changed a lot of people's lives that he in free agency made kind of a split second decision to end up being a Boston Bruin. So I just thought it was kind of a cool story. My opening shift is his role now, because he continues to be an influential figure. He's not somebody who finished out his career and then disappeared off into, you know, a life of retirement, you know, on the beach somewhere or golfing, or he's still here, and he still is very active. He runs his marathons. That's actually one of the gifts that the Bruins gave him, was like a trip to Australia to run the Australian Marathon. I was like, that wouldn't sound like a gift to me personally, but for him, that's what he loves. So he's going to be going to do that. So he's still setting an example for the current team, and I wanted to bring it up and kind of pose a few questions to you guys about his current position, which has been elevated this season. He was kind of like an unofficial mentor kind of last year. Now he's gotten elevated to an official role where I would call him just like, he's like an off-ice captain. Like he's around the building, and anyone who needs to talk to him can talk to him. Swayman, I'll read his quote. He basically said like, yeah, he'll just be working out. Just like go hang out with him working out. Swayman said, I asked Swayman, how is like having Chara around to like bring that era of Bruins culture to this era of the Bruins? And he said, yeah, I think he does that. He said, it's seeing a guy like that in the flesh every day and still works as hard as he did when he played. I see him running on the treadmill when I walk in and always smile at him because it's exactly what I want to be doing when I'm done playing. But it's what he earned every single day that rings true in these walls. So being able to pick his brain, see what he does every single day on a given basis, hearing the stories of what he's done, that's a legend, a living legend that we get to take part in. So I'm really grateful. And then I asked Chara about it as well, and he just talked about how he loves his new job, and that he did give an answer to that I posted on Twitter about trying to carry that on, and like he said, the new leaders they're not going to be like a Chara, a Bergeron, a Marchand, or a Bork. They have to find their own way, but there's certain parts of the culture that they want to make sure continue no matter what the style, like the personality of the leader. There's certain basic things that should carry on from those guys. And Chara's kind of there to make sure that does happen.
Yeah, I think it's been great for this leadership group to have him around. So you're McAvoy, Pasternak, Zadorov, Lindholms in particular, like, because Marcus Sturm's talked about that a couple times recently, that, this leadership group is still kind of like learning how to do it. Like it's their first time without for a full season without a Chara, Bergeron, or Marchand around. So these guys are learning a lot on the fly. Like that's not, obviously I think it's pretty clear, like they're not doing a bad job, right? Like this team has come together pretty nicely. And seems to have a really good culture and vibe around the locker room. But there's still, when they hit a 6-game losing streak, it's like, all right, this is something new, like that they have to figure out how to try to lead the team through. And I think having Chara around is just like someone to bounce ideas off, or like, how did you handle situations like this? Like when do you get tough on guys versus like, when do you put your arm around someone? Like those kind of things are, there's really like no one better than Chara to ask about that. And Bergeron's still around a bit too. So it's like, he's also there as a resource. So, I think like that's only a good thing. And it's not, I think Chara's like Bridget, like you referenced, like Chara's kind of made this clear. It's like, he's not trying to impose his way on guys. Like, he's not being like, here's what I did, so that's what you have to do. It's just like, hey, when they have questions, I'll answer them. Like, but there is like that clear understanding that they also have to find their own thing and do it their way, and it doesn't have to be identical to how it was in the past.
Yeah, and I thought Zadorov's answer was good too, because like when it's McAvoy and it's Pasternak, they have a personal relationship with Chara that predates, this whole him coming in and having this post-career job. Like those guys are guys that he played with. I mean, McAvoy learned under him. Like that was McAvoy's first professional mentor, really. It seemed like when they were a D pair together, when McAvoy was first starting out. But for some of these guys, it's their first time meeting Chara, and it's their first go around with understanding him as a person. And so some of the guys that were sitting watching the ceremony were learning things that they probably didn't know, which we all we come in with this knowledge because we watched it happen, right? And Pasternak and McAvoy, they watched it happen. And but the younger guys didn't know it, and we're probably watching different players from different teams because they're from Vancouver or they're from Toronto or whatever. And so I thought it was interesting because Zadorov is new, like didn't play with Chara, but he like obviously knew of Chara. They're both got the same nickname. They both are these big defensemen, and I think there's those similarities to them as people. But when Zadorov was asked about it, his answer was more like on the ice stuff that Chara helps him with. So it's not just like the leadership part of it. It's like he's actually giving advice for like what somebody like Zadorov could do to get better. Or so Zadorov said, on the ice, obviously, as a big guy, there's definitely a lot of tips he can give to you position-wise, PK, big situations, how to manage minutes, how to manage your body and everything. And off the ice, from a leadership standpoint, you name it, it's everything. I'm trying to every chance I get to try and talk to him, pick his head a bit, and obviously, and he's got so much experience in this organization.
And they're both left shot defensemen, or were in Chara's case. So that really helps their relatability as well as a big man on the blue line. Well said, guys. All things are very true, very valid. And Chara's not just his impact on the organization, the game, the league throughout his playing career, but clearly he is still making an impact within the organization current day. My opening shift, quick shift, 20 seconds and off, take a hit, make a hit. 20 seconds and off, take a hit, make a hit. I mentioned off the top, the Bruins have a 5-game winning streak. They've won 7 of 8. What that has done is this morning, as we speak, they currently sit second wild card in both points, which is 56, and point percentage, 0.583. I find that significant because so many days the three of us come on here. Yeah, Bridget with the banner, better late than never.
I decided, why did I even put it on in the first place?
At this point, it's opening shift of the second period. But yeah, so many mornings the three of us come on here and it's like, oh, the Bruins are, they're 5th in the Atlantic in points, but 7th in point percentage. They're second wild card in points, but they're 3 out in whatever the case may be. And I think that on days where they're standing in both the division where they're 5th in both categories and wild card standings where they're second wild card in both categories, when those stars align, I find it worth mentioning because it's not often that they do, especially with the way the conference has been this year. So, they have successfully dug themselves out of the second grave that they've been in this season, and their reward is not a playoff berth as we speak, but it's them continuing to be in the mix and a playoff team with about 9 or 10 games before the Olympic break.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Like when you look at the standings page, and it wasn't that long ago we were, the NHL has this nice last 10 games column, and it wasn't long ago that we were looking at it, and the Bruins were 4-6 or 4-5-1 or whatever it was. I think it was like there's one of those like 3-5-2 at one point in the last 10. And then we were going through all the other teams that, were over 500, had 6 or 7 wins in their last 10. Well, now you look at it, and it's the Bruins who are 7-2-1 in their last 10. And you look at some of the teams now behind them in that wild card race. So Toronto is the closest, and they are surging as well, 6-1-3. But then like the Capitals, 4-5-1. The Flyers, 3-6-1. Florida, 5-4-1. Devils, 4-5-1. Senators, 4-6-0. Like now all of a sudden it's like, oh, like you're the team that's reeled off this 5-game winning streak and is surging, and now all of a sudden all those other teams who were surging 2 weeks ago are struggling. And this has been the whole story of the season, right? And it's why, it's like you can't really overreact. Like a 6-game losing streak is bad. Like I don't think we were making too much of it, or like, well, I was gonna actually, you know what? Brian did declare that the season was over with that loss in Seattle. That was, we did set that up. But
if they don't rattle off 5 straight after that, I'd still be saying it. Hey, you know what? Don't have 2 6-game losing streaks in the same season, and you'll get me off your back. Boys.
It's true. Like, yeah, I mean, that probably should have been disaster. But to their credit, they've pulled out of it. And again, like the conference is just, there's so many teams, like there just aren't 8 teams pulling away from the field right now. It's, it's a couple teams at the top, but then it's a whole bunch of teams that have been streaky, just like the Bruins. Maybe not quite to the extreme of 6-game losing streaks followed by 5-game winning streaks, but 3-game losing streak followed by 2 in a row, and then 2 losses, and then 3 wins. Like every team's going through that. So, yeah, now all of a sudden they're back on the right side of it. And, am I suddenly convinced that like this is a playoff team and you got to go in this year and start adding? Like, no, I still want to see things play out. I'm still overall pretty skeptical, but yeah, they've played pretty good hockey here recently and just won all 5 at home. So that's nice, especially when you consider their previous long homestand before Christmas. They lost 5 straight on that homestand. So now, they've been a good home team most of the season up until that. So now this homestand really kind of helps you reestablish that and give you confidence, the next time you're at home.
They're really riding the wave this season.
Boy, are they riding that wave, Bridget, aren't they?
It's just because once it's going down, and then once it's going up, it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, I think Scott, you might misremember what the podcast sounded like during the losing streak, because it wasn't very positive. So.
Well, I think I will say,
I didn't say it wasn't positive. I said like I don't think we were declaring like, well, it's time to blow it up and sell off pieces.
No, but the fact and hindsight's 2020. It's easy now that they've won 7 of 8 to look back at us 3 weeks ago and be like, oh, you assholes, you guys are way too negative. And I'm talking about myself. Okay, well, when you've lost 6 games in a row and they weren't close games, a lot of those games weren't close. I mean, we talked about how many games they let up 6 goals, 7 goals, whatever. And their advanced analytics were shit outside of, honestly, generally speaking, their advanced analytics were shit. And the only real main metric they had going for them was their power play percentage. They had been taking an insurmountable amount of penalties. They've been giving up a lot of power play goals against because of that.
That did happen again yesterday, but it didn't end up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could have, but they did score a shorthanded goal and whatnot. But
yeah, but I think
you guys want to react to some breaking news mid pod?
Ooh, yeah, that's a first. What's going on?
The Bruins have made a trade.
No. Is it Anderson?
Yeah. Nope, it's not Rasmus Anderson. If it was Rasmus Anderson, I would have to like log off and actually put some stuff together. But
all right, what is it?
The Bruins have traded Jeffrey Viel to the Anaheim Ducks for a 2026 4th-round pick.
Didn't have that on my bingo card this morning.
I gotta say, my very quick initial reaction, getting a 4th-round pick for Jeffrey Viel, pretty good.
That's not bad.
I'll take that.
I like Viel. I liked his as Cam Neely would call it, piss and vinegar. Seems like a really good guy, good locker room guy, good veteran story. But I mean, you kind of said it, Scott, a 4th for for him. Fourths can turn into something, or they can be packaged with, it's What year was the fourth pick? Did you say, Scott?
2026 this year.
Oh, huh. Interesting.
It
Okay.
is interesting because I'm just trying to think from their point of view. Like, are they dealing with something where they need do they need someone tough? Like, do they feel like they're lacking somebody that can be a little bit of a enforcer? Because it's kind of what VL is when he comes into the lineup. It's like he's a fourth, and he hasn't played in a while.
He hasn't. No, it's been a while. Yeah.
No, I was starting to feel bad because I see him on the ninth floor all the time, and I was just like, oh, that.
When's the last time he played? Do you think it was sometime in like early December, maybe late November?
No, there was one game a little bit more recent than that he got into.
I know he got hurt in that game, came back, hadn't played much since.
I mean, for him, it might be good news. He might get more time over there if they're
December. Yeah, December 20th was his last game. Home game against Vancouver. But that's the only game he's played since the start of December.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Huh. Yeah. Maybe there's something. Maybe they're trying to maneuver things around for Bridget to the kind of point you're alluding to. Maybe it's a move now for something later, or they're just trying to situate themselves in terms of roster space, or I don't know.
Well, for the Bruins, he was kind of at this point with who they have. Like, he was like not even just the extra forward. He was like the extra forward, because right now, like, Asimon is the extra forward. Like, he's been in and out, and I feel like he's kind of taking that spot that maybe VL would have been in after some guys got healthy, and so yeah, maybe they just felt like there was a duplication for them, but that if they waived him, he would get claimed. So try to get something.
So jumping back to what we were discussing before, Jeffrey had to just completely derail us. Because it's worth mentioning, but I think at this point it's kind of like you can only talk about it for so much. But yeah, the Bruins season was 1,000%, I think, in the balance. I mean, again, it's easy to look back now, winning 7 of 8. But if you have, let's say you won 3 of their last 8 or 4, like you're not even close to, where they are in this. That's how tight things are. So, really, after that 6-game losing streak, anything shy of what they've done, it's like, okay, so good for them. But there was no reason based on their play and their team analytics to suggest that they were going to call themselves out of their grave. And you know what? It's a good thing that they have, because coming up, you get Chicago on Saturday night, but then you have to visit Dallas next week. You have to host Vegas, and you have to host Montreal. So they have given themselves, they've taken care of business, and we'll see what happens next week. But yeah, good for them. Good for them. They're in the mix. Do you guys have any more thoughts on that before we go into the game specifically against Seattle?
No, I think we can get into the game because there was a continuation of, one thing in particular that's really been going right for this team, and that's the goaltending. I thought Jeremy Swayman was really good once again. He gets the number 1 star. I would say it could have been a debate between him and Charlie McAvoy, who I thought was fantastic in this game and played 28 minutes, not just as a tribute to Chara playing big minutes, but also because Andrew Peeke left the game late in the first period with a lower body injury. Sturm said after the game that Peeke was going to skate today, even though the team's off. They're just traveling on Friday. But he said Peeke was going to skate, test it out, travel with the team, and there was a possibility he's not going to miss any time. Now, I will also note that as a corresponding roster move after trading away VL, the Bruins did call up Billy Sweezy from Providence. So he's going with them on this road trip. That gives them, yet another defenseman in case Peeke can't go, and another right shot, obviously. So, but yeah, I mean, McAvoy was excellent. Swayman was really good. They start fast, right? With like 2 goals right out of the gate, go up 2-0. And you're thinking like, man, they get the Chara boost. They're just gonna crush the Kraken, no problem. And then Kraken call an early timeout after the second goal. And then to their credit, the Kraken really pushed back and kind of took control of the game for pretty much the rest of the first period. Cut it to 2-1. And then, I thought the Bruins had to kind of do some regrouping and get back on track and punch back to the punchback. And they did. And they got up, Castle makes a great play, shorthanded early in the second period to make it a 3-1 game. And then the Bruins, I thought, from there, really kind of locked it down defensively. The Kraken obviously had some chances from there, but I don't think they had a ton of high danger chances. Whereas that last 14, 15 minutes of the first period, I thought there were high dangers in there too that Swayman, really had to be on his game to keep that a 1-goal game.
Yeah, they started out with 2 goals in 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Who started the scoring there?
Well, that guy, the Russian kid, who's Zdeno.
I like him. He's good. I like that. I like that kid. He's got something there.
It was 54 seconds into the game, and the atmosphere was already crazy, and it was a great way to start it. And then Arvidsson scores like 2 minutes after that, or a little bit more than that after that, and makes it 2-0. And it was a hot start, but like you mentioned, that timeout did kind of change things. And then Aspro took a penalty, and then they scored 5 seconds into their power play. And so actually both of their goals were power play goals. The other one was on a Zadorov / Tolvanen scored with 8 seconds left. So one was at the very beginning of a power play, one was at the very end of a power play. So the penalties could have actually been their downfall in this game. I think that made it a 1-goal game. Yeah, 3-2 after Tolvanen's goal in the second period. But the Bruins hold on. They end up winning 4-2 with Pasta getting the empty net goal. And I was starting to worry that penalties were about to ruin Chara night, because Seattle did score when they had their chances, and there were a lot of penalties. Let me go check. Let's see.
Yeah, Seattle had 4 power plays. Yeah, the Bruins had 5 penalties total, but 1 was Steve's fighting.
Yep.
It was funny. Marcus Sturm started. So usually Steve Conroy of the Boston Herald gets first question in the post-game press conferences or practice press, really any press conference to Sturm. And so Steve gets the mic first, and Marcus Sturm looked at him. He was like, "I thought about you tonight," because Steve this was either Thursday morning skate or maybe Wednesday practice, had asked Sturm about them not taking as many penalties and was like, "Do you feel like you've gotten over that hump?" And Sturm just stared at him and was like, "Don't you dare jinx us." And then they go out and have penalty trouble this game.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, the dam was meant to break at some point, and it did cost them to an extent, right? I mean, Seattle went 2 for 4, I believe, but then Mark Kaslik was able to score a shorthanded goal in between those two. So the first 3 power plays by Seattle, somebody was scoring, and it took the Bruins a while to get one of their own as well. Bridget, you mentioned the second goal of the game was Victor Arvidsson. As you said, that is the 6th game in a row that second line has recorded a point. Another even strength point for recorded a goal. Another even strength point for Pavel Zacha. So we've talked about his 5-on-5 production that continues to stay red hot. And did you guys know that there are only 5 other line combinations in the NHL that have played more minutes together than Arvidsson, Zacha, and Middlestad?
Really?
Yeah, I can read them off if you would like. You know what? Well, yeah, I could tell you. Let me just read you the 4 right now. Actually, I think I do know off the top of my head who it is, but let me read the 4 right now. Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, and Beckett Seneca. Is it Zemgus Gergensons in Tampa? Is that how you say his name, Scott?
Yes, Zemgus Girgensons.
Girgensons.
What a name that is.
UVM legend, University of Vermont.
Almost as good as Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but
imagine Doc Emmerich Jorgensens. All right.
Potential could be a potential line mate for Danzla Schmelis at the Olympics.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So him, Yanni Gord, Pontus Holmberg, Arturo Lehkonen, Nathan McKinnon, Marty Natchez, Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin, Emmett Finney, and then Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabe Velarde. That line, I believe the last one I said, I think they've played the most minutes together in the league. Yes, they have played 489 minutes together, according to Money Puck, if that's up to date. Anyway, who knew? I mean, I've been skeptical of that, the origination of that Zacha Middlestead Arvidsson line since the jump. We have given them their flowers, but they've been good this year. I didn't expect it necessarily, so I'm glad that they've been able to prove me wrong.
Well, so that just piqued my interest to look up something else while you were talking. And how's this for a stat? So that line also now plus 11 at 5-on-5. When they've been out there, Bruins have scored 19 goals, only given up 8. There are only 4 lines that have a better plus minus than them.
Like in general, with how many minutes, like with the same amount of minutes played as them, at least?
Any number of minutes.
Wow, really?
Right. Was one of them that McKinnon line or no?
Yeah, so the Lehkonen, McKinnon, Natchez line is running away. They're plus 22. Alex DeBrincat, Andrew Kopp, Patrick Kane with Detroit plus 16. Third is old friend Marcus Johansson, Joel Eriksson-Ek, and Matt Boldy in Minnesota plus 14. And then Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, and Tyler Toffoli with San Jose at plus 12. And then you get Middlestead, Zacha, Arvidsson plus 11.
Scott, I don't want to bring you down yesteryear and upset you right now, but how did BU lose that final with Macklin and Lane on that team? That's crazy looking back now. Like,
well, they lost in the semis, I believe, right? Yeah, to Denver.
Oh, I thought that was the finals.
The Denver team just steamrolled through everyone. They beat BU in the semis and then BC in the final.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because I remember it was going to be possibly a BU-BC national championship final.
Yeah,
and that was the year that Cutter was in it too.
Yeah, I mean, BC was stacked.
Yeah,
Cutter, Will Smith.
BC definitely had the better team than BU that year. Like BU, it was a lot just riding on Macklin Celebrini and Elaine Hudson, obviously. But yeah, BC was loaded.
Obviously they were young, like they were teenagers. Yeah. But like you look at the NHL impact, and it's like Ryan Leonard. Leonard is he's without a doubt a top 9 forward on any NHL team, and top 6 probably on many, especially as his career goes on. Same with Will Smith. Same with Cutter Gauthier. But you look at the impact that Lane Hudson's having on a league-wide standard, and the same with Macklin Celebrini. And it's like they aren't just like top-end players on their team. They're top-end players at their position in the league, and they're still so I know how good that Denver team was. They were a well-oiled machine. They were a mature NCAA team, and they had a lot of talent too. But it is interesting, like looking back, that BU had both of those kids in the same roster.
Yeah, and last year they did go to the championship game and lost, but the main guys on that team are kind of still the main guys now, which is Cole Hudson, Yzerman, and Yegorov were kind of like the main pillars of that. So
yeah,
they're still there. And thanks for previewing what I'm doing tonight, because once we're done with this, I'm going to BU to do Ringside for their game against Lowell. So
I heard your voice a lot, by the way, last night on Ness and Bridge, because the Beanpot had a women's Beanpot commercial. It was every couple of commercials, that and Pizza Shark down in the Cape, which ironically I remember I told you guys I saw that movie down the Cape last weekend, and there's a pizza shop in that movie. That's what it is. So how ironic is that? Pizza Shark down the Cape. Just
which commercial's better, mine or Pizza Shark?
Oh, yours, obviously. I mean, if you could have your voice
over
promoting the Pizza Shark products, then that would be probably 10 out of 10. You can get pepperoni on your pizza for only 19. No, whatever it is.
More.
Yeah. Exactly.
But, yeah, no, I actually didn't even know they were running a commercial with my voice on it until we walked into the after post game. I went to, or no, like after the game. Before we went to the locker room, I always go drop my backpack off in like the media room, and I walk in the room and I just hear my voice and I look around. I'm like, everyone's like looking at me like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah."
They're like, so she does belong in this
Well,
in this party.
it's funny, Bridget. I didn't even tell you this, but so Tuesday's game, Tuesday's Bruins game. Obviously, you were at the first round of the women's bean pot, and they had that on up in the press box, like up on the press box TVs before the Bruins game started. And so it's like someone asked me, like, is Bridget coming tonight? And I was like, no, she's got women's bean pod. And then like they literally happened to just cut away to a stand-up of you like at that moment. So I was like, oh, there she is.
That's funny.
There she is. She's on camera right now. Yeah, no, it's funny. I do feel like the people at the Bruins don't really know what I do with like college hockey, and like they know me as a writer, and then like, but they don't really know like broadcaster Bridget, and then vice versa. Like the broadcasting people don't even know I'm a Bruins reporter. I feel like so nobody has any idea, but I keep track of it.
You got your day job and your night job. Double agent.
I have 4 jobs.
International woman of mystery.
Yeah, that's me.
There you go.
That's why I have a giraffe butler.
What were we talking? Yeah. What were we talking about before I derailed us with the BU segment?
The Seattle game.
I don't know.
No, specifically. Well, all right. Here's a transition from BU.
Oh, the lines, the plus.
Oh yeah, okay. I think you made your point on that, Scott, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, no, that's again, like who knew? Who thought that this line would be that effective? And you know what? Keeping it to that line, I was asked a question and I answered it written form, but like, you know, that line, and Bridget, you've talked about it all year. I think it was your bold prediction. Like those 3 names are the ones that, you know, will continue to come up. Like, should the Bruins look to move one of them? I personally don't think that they have any interest in trading Pavel Zacha. I feel like when it comes to Middlestad, I think they're going to bide their time and they're probably going to hold off on a decision there until they need to. And at some point in his contract year, Arvidsson's the one where, like, if the Bruins get offered, regardless if they're in the playoffs or not, if they get offered a first rounder for Arvidsson, I think they'd be stupid not to take that. But, you know, could I see them foregoing a second or third round pick from somebody to keep them just for the vibes this year? Yeah, I could. You could still make the case that that's not good asset management if you don't see Arvidsson here past this season, but that's the one to keep an eye on. But with the line playing this well, it does make the conversation a little bit more heavy, I think.
Yeah. And how about this? Like if you do get like a first round offer for Arvidsson, do you then just like, if that's the deadline, right? That's March. College hockey season could be over for BC by then.
Why? So Letourneau can come into the roster?
Yes.
Oh, who else is it? Oh, Higgins. Yeah, Higgins. Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's where I'll be Friday night. That's the college game I'm going to. Is
he'll be
Boston College versus Providence College.
That's gonna be a really good game. I think it's on. Not to. I mean, you guys should watch my broadcast, but like that is on ESPNU, I believe. If you wanted to watch that, I think that's the game. One of their games is on ESPNU.
How's McQueen doing for Providence?
McQueen is doing better. I actually did their broadcast last Friday, and he scored 2 goals. And we got to do I made sure that out of one of the breaks, we showed like his wild helicopter ride to Disney, like on draft night. I made sure to mention I was jealous because we were all working and then we walk out and we were watching, like, who's this kid taking a helicopter ride to Disney? But yeah, so he definitely had the most fun draft day. And it was like a video of him like on a boat with dolphins and everything. I'm like, I didn't even see this part, but he just had a great night. But no, he's been doing better. He's started to score. He had a lot of assists early in the season, but no goals, and now he's starting to score too. So
yeah, bringing it back to Arvidsson, potential moves, you know, Don Sweeney's approach over these next couple months. Like, I think it's fascinating on a bunch of different fronts, but yeah, including Arvidsson. Like, you're right. I think if someone comes at you with a first round pick, man, that'd be like really tough. I think you probably have to take it.
Have to take it.
But it's something less because, like, you know, a month or two ago, my approach with Arvidsson would have been like, hey, getting pretty much anything for him is found money. Like, they gave up what, a 5th round pick to get him. So if you even bump that up 2 rounds to like a 3rd, like that by definition is good asset management, which I think you could get. Like, you can probably get a 3rd all day long. So
yeah, you got a 4th for BL. So
yeah, I mean, right now I would say like the bare minimum for Arvidsson is probably a 2nd, which like I would also be tempted by. But look, I know this Bruins team is not a Stanley Cup contender. Like I felt that way all along. I still feel that way. And yet there is the part of me that's like, maybe you just ride this out and like see what happens, right? Like, you've already accrued a lot of picks. And I know you can never have too many. Like, you know, the Bruins don't have the best prospect pool in the NHL, right? Like, they could still use more restocking. And yet I'm like, I don't know. Arvidsson's playing well and he's helping you win games. And that line's been really good as we just laid out. Like, at the very least, I'm more willing to be patient. Again, unless you get blown away with that first round pick. But if it's a 2nd or a 3rd on the table, I'm like, I don't know. That's probably still on the table closer to the deadline, as long as he can stay healthy, which is a question and a fair one. But yeah, it's just like the last episode when we were talking about Rasmus Andersson, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to start trading away assets to buy anything. I also don't know that I'm ready to trade guys away. Like, VL's one thing, right? As we just said, he's played once since the start of December. He's a good locker room guy. I think he's really well liked and respected. But he wasn't actually a big part of what you were doing on the ice. So like, that's one thing. But trading someone who's effectively playing in your top 6, I just don't think like I'm ready to do that right now. Like, I kind of want to see this go a little longer and just see what happens. Like, I just don't think you have to rush into anything. I know there is this, people like Elliot Friedman and teams are talking about, hey, February 4th is the pre-Olympic deadline, and then there's a roster freeze. So there is some urgency for teams to maybe make moves before then. But I don't feel like the Bruins have to be one of those teams. Like, I think they can be one that waits until after. Unless things really fall apart here in the next couple of weeks before the Olympic break, but it doesn't, right now that's not happening. Obviously they're surging. It's going the opposite way where they're starting to get all the, the warm and fuzzies.
Well, but what if it goes really well, which is what it's trending to, and they decide that they are a Rasmus Andersson away from being a legit, like an actual playoff team with a chance? They could make a move then.
As a rental, absolutely not. Right? Like, there has to be an extension in place. Yeah, I would say like they shouldn't trick themselves into thinking they're Rasmus Andersson away. Now, that said, I'm not shutting the door on trading for Rasmus Andersson, because if there is an extension, then that's bigger picture than just we're going for it this season, right? Like, he then fills a longer term need. So it all comes back to what the deal looks like. We if people really want our full like half-hour discussion on this, check out our last episode.
Yeah.
But to just summarize my take, like, I would be very reluctant to give up the Bruins' own first round pick in 2026. Like, I don't think I would do that.
A quick update. Friedman on 32 Thoughts this morning, he did double down on reports that came out of Boston this week that we talked about on our last episode. And Jimmy Murphy was the article that is in reference. And Murphy also said today that he's hearing that, Andersson isn't right now interested in an extension in Boston, and that the Bruins right now are effectively out. So, but, I guess my thought on Andersson is I don't think it. I think the Bruins, if they wanted to get him, I think I would be willing to part with Lori and maybe a first round pick in 2027. And if Calgary is hell-bent on trading him before the Olympic roster freeze, and that Laura and a 27 first isn't good enough and you risk losing Anderson to somebody else, then so be it. Like, I don't think the Bruins should be bending over backwards to accommodate Calgary in a situation where they're going to be, because maybe they don't trade him before the roster freeze and he's still in Calgary near the deadline, and now Calgary is in a situation where they're afraid to lose him for nothing in the offseason, and then maybe they start to get a little bit more lenient on what the ask would be. As far as Arvidsson goes, he's 6th on the Bruins in scoring right now, and he's definitely been a good player for them. I agree. I'm not really moving him for a 3rd round pick. I mean, I just don't know if it really matters all that much for a 3rd. A 2nd, I'm thinking hard about it because I really do think that I just don't see the Bruins signing him to an extension in the offseason. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Bruins do see Victor Arvidsson in their intermediate plans over the next 4 years or something. With all the kids that Boston has coming up in the system and more to come, as Bridget alluded to, James Higgins possibly as soon as this spring. I don't think the Bruins and Arvidsson are a long-term marriage, but I could be wrong. In that situation, you do want to optimize an expiring asset. And so if it's a 1st round pick, every day of the week, twice on Sunday. If it's a 2nd round pick you can get for Arvidsson, I think you have to strongly consider that, because 2nd round picks, especially if it's a high 2nd round pick, depending on who it goes to, although it would be a playoff team, so it wouldn't be. But, 2nd round picks are valuable too. I guess the roster freeze for the Olympics is not a deadline for me with Arvidsson. He's a trade deadline decision. I think the Bruins still have time to decide on him. And I do think that a playoff team would be willing to give the Bruins something for him, because teams are always looking to add at the deadline that are, aspiring to win a Stanley Cup that spring. So, but yeah, it's just interesting. The second line's playing good, and these are all still storylines we'll be following all the way. Bridget, do you have any final thoughts on that discussion before I move along?
No, but I just got this interesting email. We get a lot of emails to try to get us to have guests on the podcast, and this one's new, and I really want to get your input if we need this person on the podcast.
Do this live over the air.
A mentalist named Alex Vaz, who is one of the top illusionists in the nation, is coming to Boston. They want to know if he wants to come, if we want him on the pod. So, I mean, it says here he can turn water into wine. So,
okay, can he predict what trades the Bruins are going to make?
Yeah,
Can he turn Arvidsson into a 1st? That'd be nice.
I don't know. I can email this person back and see what he can do.
Oh, we'll circle back on that post production. Guys, Charlie McAvoy, Scott, you mentioned him earlier. He's playing awesome. He's playing really good. We talked about him last episode. You mentioned his 28 minutes, obviously, a game high in part because Andrew Peeke goes down, which it sounds like that's not too serious, according to Sturm's comments post-game regarding Peake's injury. But yeah, Charlie he's playing some of the best hockey he's played. I think last episode we mentioned similar to what he was playing before his injury in Montreal. With the Olympics around the corner, it's good news for USA Hockey, but more importantly for the Bruins, it's good news for them because he's not just a guy out there right now. He is the guy out there right now on the back end, and his skating is just at a different level right now. You can tell how confident he is at both ends of the rink, but defensively, his skating and his ability to carry the puck out of trouble has been very evident the last few weeks here.
Yeah, and he's like, one of my favorite things that McAvoy can do when he's on his game is like he gets up offensively and is in the play, but then he's always on the move. So even if there's a turnover or, the opposition wins the race to a rebound or whatever, it's like he's already turning and like coming back the other way. And then he, as you mentioned, he's just such a good skater that's like he's going to recover. So it's like even if he starts in, like the left face-off dot or something, it's like he's going to beat multiple guys up ice because he already kind of has some momentum going. He wasn't standing still. And then he's going to get back. He's going to take a good angle and he's going to make a play. And he's doing that a bunch. And it's like, I mentioned this last podcast, but like there's there's certain rules you have to follow in this structure and in the system Marco Sturm wants to play. But now you're starting to see like just a little bit of allowances for the guys who can go a little bit outside the structure at times without throwing off all four of their teammates who are out there with them. And McAvoy's doing that, where it's like, now, all right, you can ease up the reins a little bit. Like you can let him loose a little bit, and it's not going to throw off the guys who are out on the ice with them, because he's gonna get back to where he needs to get back to, and he's still going to be in good position. And yeah, I mean the stat line he puts together Thursday night, like the 28 minutes, yeah, but then 2 assists plus 3, 4 hits, 3 blocks, draws the penalty at the end in the extra attacker situation when Seattle's trying to tie it. Like, yeah, just an awesome performance.
Yeah, when's the last time you think we've seen him have this kind of freedom and like get back to that game? Because I feel like it's been a while. He did it really well in the early parts of his career, and I'm trying to think like who his best partners were in the past where he was able to do that, and it just feels like it goes back quite a bit. I don't know if you think that you've seen it from him like with anyone last year or the year before, but it is a really entertaining Charlie McAvoy to watch. And I mean, we saw it at Four Nations a little bit, but I'm talking about like with the Bruins.
Yeah, it probably hasn't happened much recently. I think in part because there hasn't been, a steady partner with them, or like a steady combination that's really worked. Like when we talk, like what my mind goes to was the 5-man unit that the Bruins had with McAvoy and Grizzly on defense, and then the perfection line up front, like, where it's like you threw the 5 of them out and they would just spend entire shifts in the offensive zone cycling. Like that's kind of the peak of it. So, that's been several years since you had anything close to that. So,
who coined that name?
Jack,
who started?
probably.
Was it Jack that started the perfection line? Was it some national analyst? I can see like Butchergross or someone like that doing it.
I don't remember.
That's a good question. Yeah, I actually don't remember either.
The perfection line. Talk about being overused. That the amount of times I heard, I loved them. They're amazing, but when they were playing, it was perfection line. Every replay, every game, it's like, oh my god, like they're amazing. Can we just, can we call them the Bergeron line for a cup of coffee here?
No.
Hey, whatever.
I liked it. I like it. Probably got overused a little bit, but I like a good nickname for a line, and that line did deserve to have one. So do
you think they were perfect though?
No one's perfect. Like I don't think anyone took it literally. Like they never give up a goal.
0 goals against while they're.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what people take literally. So last night, so Connor Ryan tweeted out the festivities of the game on Causeway Street, and I quote tweeted it just saying like, yeah, I feel like it's not talked about enough how different the area looks in the last like 7-8 years, whatever. And just so many different comments here and there. Like, you somehow it got political. People in the comments just go crazy with things. I don't know how it got political, but there are some comments like, I actually think it's talked about the appropriate amount of time, or it's like, I'm not being fucking literal here. Like, it's a conversation. You'd be surprised if people take literal, Scott. And I took that perfection line very literal. I said, I don't know. They could use a big forecheck. No, I'm just kidding. No, they were near perfect, of course.
They were good of to get the nickname.
They were good. And it was really good to see Bergeron last night, along with all the other 2011 era guys. And that was part of Chara's ceremony, not to jump back to an hour ago when we started the podcast, but I love that about Chara's ceremony, was listing off all of the 2011 champions by name, except for one assistant coach, Chris Kelly.
That was tough. That was tough. You know what? Like I didn't even catch it in the moment, but then like afterwards, people listed it off and mentioned that, and I was like, "Ooh, man!" Like obviously just a mistake. Like I saw some people were like, "Does he have something against Chris Kelly?" It's like, no, that they see each other every day. They're in the building together. Like, and I'm sure it was obviously just an honest mistake, but like, in a way, kind of kind of funny, like because Chris Kelly's also the kind of person now who will never let Chara live that down.
Yeah.
Like he'll be like, "Hey Zdeno, do you know who I am?" Or like he's gonna give him shit for it like forever now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he did remember Milan Lucic, who was the only one who got booed during.
No, Lucic got cheered.
No, I think
No.
those were Luch's, no?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
I
was
heard
a Luch.
Oh wow, really? I thought
No.
that people were.
No, you know
booing
who did get booed though
Yeah.
was Jeremy
Oh,
Jacobs
yeah,
and
yeah.
Cam Neely.
Why
Jeremy
did you put him
Jacobs,
in
Charlie
the
Jacobs, Cam Neely, Don Sweeney. Yeah, not
Ne-
the warmest reception for any of them.
Neely surprised me a little bit considering the setting and like the occasion. Like I understand that, you know, people are very critical of Neely and Sweeney, off the record or whatever amongst fans, but and you expect ownership to get booed. It's no different than like Gary Bettman as people boo the suits, right? But I was surprised that they actually booed Neely like in that setting because I mean he's next to Bobby Orr and all the other guys. His numbers in the rafters. It's like okay. I mean, they had one bad year and some skeptical, drafts and stuff, but it's like I don't know if you got to boo the guy.
Well, it was interesting because like that first introduction when he's going out with so there were 7 other players there who have, or guys who have had their numbers retired who were on at center ice on the carpet for the ceremony, and obviously Cam Neely was one of them. And that when they were introducing all those guys, there were a couple boos mixed in, but it was just like a really muted reaction. It was like everyone else got huge cheers, and Cam Neely was just kind of like some cheering, a little booing, a lot of just like uncomfortable silence. But then when Chara like thanked the organization and went through by name, Jeremy Jacobs, Charlie Jacobs, Cam Neely, Don Sweeney, it was like noticeable boos for all of them. When Charlie Jacobs popped up twice in the tribute video to Chara, got booed both times, which I'm just like, listen, the Bruins do a really good job with all this stuff. Don't put Charlie Jacobs in the video twice. Put him in there once, get the boos out of the way. Like, I know he's the owner, like they get to do what they want. So if he wants to be the last one in the video, you have to put him there. But probably not the image I would have chosen to end the video with is going back to Charlie Jacobs for a second time. Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, it's not surprising. Like we know there's frustration with this ownership and management. So that's their burden to bear until this team wins the Stanley Cup. Like until they lead the Bruins to a Stanley Cup, that's the reception they get. And it is interesting though because you said like that's just what happens with owners, and it's like, well, if you think about like the Boston sports landscape, it's like it's certainly what happens with 2 teams owners. The Jacobs get booed, and John Henry and Tom Werner and that group certainly gets booed.
And they've won 4 titles in the last.
Yeah, they've won
years.
Significantly more than the Bruins, and they still get booed.
But they are cheap mothereffers, and the prices at Fenway are insane. But
yeah, but like Robert Kraft gets cheered at Patriots games, and Wick Grossbeck always, got cheered at Celtics games. Now Bill Chisholm's probably too new to really have any reaction either way, the new Celtics owner, but like this town has had 2 owners who I would say have mostly been loved. I know there's been times that Robert Kraft has come under criticism, but for the most part, like he's been a fan favorite throughout his time owning the Patriots.
Yeah, I kind of took that booing from the fans as like their messaging there is like keeping those guys, keeping them honest. It's kind of like, all right, we know you got Higgins. We know you guys have done the right thing the last, 6 months or so. We know the team is, overperforming, but like we're not being like don't pull the wool over our eyes. Like we know that there's still work to be done, and you should too. And that's kind of how I took that. And honestly, hey, keep the fellas honest. I'm sure they can take the heat, right? But Chara was acting like a parent though. There, he was like the booing happens, and he goes, "Hey." and everybody kind of stops for a second. That was funny.
I felt a little bad for Chara because it's like he is legitimately just trying to thank those guys. Like, he
Yeah.
has good relationships with all of them, and obviously, like he doesn't want to be like the one to like set up fans to boo them, but that is kind of what it turned into.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, one final note from the game for me. I'm sure we could go into details on the different plays, but 10 straight seasons for Pasternak with 20 goals. Obviously, it was an empty netter, so not the prettiest of his career, but one nonetheless. Any other notes from the game from you two before we sign out?
I don't think so.
Bridget, you good?
No, should I email the mentalist?
Yeah,
no, leave him on red.
See what he's got going on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll get back to you.
All right, we have Bruins Blackhawks Saturday, I believe at 8:00 in Chicago. Yeah. And so enjoy that, and the three of us
siblings trip for the Bruins. So I'm sure there'll be some entertaining content on the Bruins social media pages.
Yeah, well, they got Chicago and then Dallas. Chicago's a great city. Chicago's awesome in the summer. In the winter, it's brutally cold, just like it is here. But the city's great to go to. But Dallas, that's where they're gonna get their fun in.
I was in Chicago. Sorry, Bridget. What was that?
Get someone on a mechanical bull.
Oh, it'll happen. It'll happen.
I was in Chicago for New Year's one year, and it was the first time I had been to Chicago. So it was like we thought we were gonna do a little walking around, and then you went outside, and it was like 13 degrees and super windy, and I was like, yeah, no, we're just gonna go and find somewhere to go inside for the rest of the time. This is not an exploring trip.
Now, Scott, do you know why it's called the Windy City?
It's actually because of politics. It is not because.
Is it really?
It is not because of the actual wind.
Oh, I thought it was the actual wind, Scott. No, it's not because of the. It's not because of the air coming out of the politicians' heads.
Yeah, it's because of it's like politicians blowing wind or whatever. I forget the whole folklore behind it, but
blowing smoke.
Yeah, but fun fact: Boston is actually a windier city than Chicago.
I don't like that fact.
I believe it. I
do too, because when I walk to my car to try to go to the Bruins games, my hair starts out curled and it ends up straight. So blows
I think Boston's also a rainier city than Seattle.
Come on. No way. That's not true. I think Seattle's I think it's notoriously the rainiest city.
I gotta look this up to make sure I don't leave people on
Where'd you see that? The Onion? TMZ? Where are you seeing this nonsense? Twitter?
Listen, AI Overview says Boston generally gets more total rainfall than Seattle. Boston averages around 43 inches of precipitation annually compared to Seattle's 38 inches.
Stop it. I don't believe you. All right. Thank you all very much for listening. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back Monday to talk to you. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.